Thank you, Peter. Okay, let's move on to skill 2.
Great. So web archivers, and some of you may have used the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, for example. And I thought I would use this example from this past week. I didn't open with this, but as many of you know, earlier in the week, Vice President Pence visited the Mayo Clinic and did not wear a mask and received quite a bit of blowback online about that. Despite what you may think, there was also quite a bit of discussion on Twitter about a tweet that the Mayo Clinic allegedly sent and then deleted. And this is an authentic tweet, but if we were using this as a point of exploration, it can be kind of difficult to verify, right? Here was a tweet that circulated. Some people screenshotted it. Screenshots of the tweet are circulating, but if you go to Mayo Clinic's feed, it's no longer there because they've deleted it, right? So how do we know whether or not this is a fake or not? And fake tweets are actually quite easy to produce. And this is something that, you know, before I show you, I always caution educators and others to be aware that these things exist. And I think it's very important that we all are aware that fake tweet generators exist and other social media fake generators exist. But not to use them, to realize the stakes that, you know, using this to circulate even what you think is a joke, as I think I've demonstrated, can get loose and go viral and create real confusion. So this particular site, TweetGen, and there are many, lets you make a fake block notification, a fake suspension notification, or a fake tweet. And it basically works like this. So if I were to, and I didn't, but if I were to make a fake Mayo Clinic tweet, I didn't actually generate the image, you can actually fill in the name, fill in the handle, decide to make it a verified user, and then just steal the profile photo from the authentic account, put it on the fake tweet, and there you have an image that looks like a genuine tweet from the Mayo Clinic or anyone else. And then you could circulate that as a screenshot online. So you see people do this quite a bit. They make things up. They make an incendiary false tweet or false social media post and circulate it and say, look at what this person posted and then deleted, but I saved a screenshot and it was a tweet that never existed. So the challenge here is figuring out, you know, what's the difference? You know, how can you tell whether you're looking at something that was faked as a screenshot or something that is a legitimate, authentic screenshot of a tweet that actually was deleted? So anytime you encounter a claim about a social media post and all you have is a screenshot, not a link, you have to be really careful. Some of them are authentic, many of them are not. In this instance, this is authentic. And if we go to Mayo Clinic's feed, obviously it's gone, right? So if we scroll down and move through this, you can go past the date and time that that screenshot was posted and see that it's no longer in the feed. So the way we would next look for it is to use a web archiver. So archive.is is one. And it lets you save a URL that is currently live in that red box at the top. So if you post a URL there to a specific tweet, you can save that tweet. It will time and date stamp that and save an image of that. That also goes for any content online that can be screenshot. So you can actually save what, you know, the homepage of the New York Times looks like right now. If you ever wanted to refer back to the way it was laid out or a particularly good story or for whatever reason. It also helps, you know, if you're an educator and you want your link to remain stable, if you're worried that something might be deleted later and you want to use it in a lesson that you might use again next year, for example, you can archive the link. Another way to use archivers is to grab pictures of web pages that you don't actually want to visit. If you don't want to give them the traffic or you're unsure if they're safe, you can copy the link address by right-clicking the link. So this is an example of what is actually a fake news or fabricated news site created by a guy named Christopher Blair, who is a liberal, self-described liberal troll. So he publishes outrageous falsehoods to try to get conservatives to react online, and then he and his cronies make fun of them, which is unproductive in so many ways. But if you don't want to give Blair the traffic for this fake story about the Clinton Foundation, you can right-click the URL and copy the link address in your right-click menu, and then paste that into the archiver. And then when it gets a screenshot, you now have a stable image, and you don't have to go visit that site if you're unsure about it or you don't want to give it the traffic. So we can find this screenshot of the Mayo Clinic tweet in archive.is. And I thought I had a video of myself doing that. I guess I didn't make it in. So at the bottom box here on archive.is, if you enter the URL of what you're looking for and click search, it will come up if it's been archived by someone else. And if you enter the stub of a URL with an asterisk behind it, it will give you any URL that begins with that stub. So twitter.com/Mayo Clinic /*, for example, would pull up any and all content that has been archived by someone. Oh, actually, here's the video. Here's what you can, oh no, that's the video of me scrolling through. Here's what I just described. So I'm gonna look to see if there are any archived tweets from the Mayo Clinic using archive.is. So you can see there, I just typed, let me back up just a second. Sorry about that. So I just typed the stub of the URL here. So twitter.com/Mayo Clinic /* is going to give me any URL that's been archived on this archiver that begins with that stub of a URL. And when I search, I can see that there are actually quite a few tweets from the Mayo Clinic that have been archived over time. And right at the top there is one of the most recent is this actual tweet. So this is actually authoritative evidence that the Mayo Clinic did tweet this at that time on that day. And it also documents some of the responses to that. They then deleted it. They haven't, I don't think, said why or how it came to be deleted. You can also use the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. So if you go to web.archive.org, this is another popular archiver. The Internet Archive has a number of great resources if you're digging into things that have been published or broadcast online. And you can see that similarly, a number of Mayo Clinic tweets have been archived, and it has a date and timestamp of its own. So I want to make the case that actually archiving these kinds of things is an important contribution that people can make. If you see a problematic tweet, if you see a controversial tweet, if you see an offensive tweet or something, documenting it can help fact checkers behind you. So even if you don't go through and do the entire fact check, if you can document that an account has actually shared something problematic, it leaves a trail for researchers then. Disinformation researchers and fact checkers are going to look for evidence that was posted before it's, after it's deleted, they're going to go look for it. And if you can help provide that record, that's actually a service. So that's something that, I think it's important for all of us to know how to do, but also to convey to students. Sunshine, do we have questions about archivers before we move on here?
One question, and I'll only ask one because you still have 3 more skills to go here. And that is, someone said that they use both archive.org, based in, I assume this is San Francisco, and archive.is, but they've wondered about who is behind archive.is. They go on, I haven't been able to find any info on that, and the site appears to be based in Russia. Should we have any concerns about using archivers that aren't transparent?
That's an interesting question. Yes, I would say if they're not transparent, I know that a number of fact checkers and standards-based journalists use archive.is, and that it has held up actually in court, as has, I think, the Wayback Machine, to prove that something was posted at a given time. I am not entirely sure where it's hosted or who owns archive.is. That's a good question. Thank you for raising that, though. I will look into that myself. Other questions about archivers you want me to move on here?
There's one more,
Okay.
which is, how do archivers decide what to record? For example, are they storing all Mayo Clinic tweets, or is there some kind of system?
So there's a system. So when somebody actually submits a URL and archives it, it's saved, but it's user saved. So they are not archiving the entire internet. Nobody has that kind of capacity. Tweets of public officials are archived and saved. Trump's tweets, for example, there are several archives, fact-based. The Trump Twitter archive everything that Trump tweets. ProPublica runs a website called PolitWhoops that documents tweets that public officials delete, state representatives, I think, and then members of Congress and the president and others. So there are sites that archive specific people and their activity on Twitter, on social media. Otherwise, it's up to users to document it. So that's why I was saying it's important for people to document things they find that they think are problematic or important to have a record of before they're deleted if they think it's likely that they might be.
Okay, carry on, please.
Okay, so great. So the third skill I want to talk about is something called critical observation. This is largely a common sense skill, but it's worth pointing out. I'm going to use a resource from an organization called First Draft to teach this. First Draft actually trains journalists in digital verification skills, but I think some of their resources have a great cross-purpose for educators using with students. So here you have an example of First Draft's observation challenge, and the goal here is to just use your eyes and your brain to figure out what country this is in, and they will give you hints if you click there. And if we were in an open chat environment, I would elicit details that you might notice. But usually when I talk through this with groups, people's eyes go to the center of the photo right away. They see a Star of David, they see the word Gaza, and then somebody typically suggests that this is possibly in the Middle East. Other people then will notice the way people are dressed. It looks like it's far colder than it ever gets in the Middle East, even in the dead of winter there. So then other people then start to look in the background and they see evidence of Western European architecture. Some people look at the flags, but again, this is a demonstration of protest, so the flags may not be a reliable signal. And finally, people see that there is French on the banner that's being held on the sheet, and then in the background, a French publication, La Humanité, and then there's French language there, all pointing to the fact that this was taken in France at a protest in France. They have another example here, and again, people might immediately notice the Mandarin characters on signs, but also there is English. And once people begin to look closer, they see that there are license plates on the cars. They begin to notice addresses. There are telephone numbers, and you can clearly see an area code 212 right on the right-hand side at the very edge on that orange banner or orange awning. And then on other awnings and signs there as well. So this is Chinatown in New York City. So we've just sort of put together this quick graphic for this talk or for this training that we do with educators to try to help students think about these types of aspects of images when they encounter them. So don't just take in an image and then think that it counts as evidence that it says it is where, that it is where it says it is, like the image of the alleged image of London I shared up top, but really scrutinize the image, look at the architecture, look at the way people are dressed, look for other signs and signals of climate, any visible text, especially business names or phone numbers or street names and addresses, municipal signs, license plates, and you can help students practice these skills with examples of misinformation like this one, but you can also help students practice these skills on your own with images you take, and then ask them if they can use their observation skills to figure out where you are. Obviously, you can see here when they pivot and use your observation skills a bit that there is a mountain range in the background there. So you could look to see if there are any mountain ranges like that near London and begin to draw that into question just using observation skills. Here's an image I took in my neighborhood, and the goal here is to really have students, when they see an image like this, to really notice details like this. So there's a bus route, there's an architectural flourish on the top of that building that's pretty distinctive. There are a couple of business names in the shot, there are license plates, there's a cab company. So if we were to zoom up and magnify any of these, we can get a business name and then do a lateral search, and we can be pretty confident about where this is. But we have to just learn to look at images like that. So that's the third skill. And then Sunshine, I'm happy to pivot straight into the fourth just to save some time here.
That's a good idea.
Great. So some of you may have heard of reverse image searching. Others maybe have not. But it's possible to search the web for an image instead of just a text-based search term. So digital images are really nothing more than patterns of pixels. And so this image is no exception. So if I wanted to search the web for this image of the protester holding the doctored sign to find out if it was authentic, to see where else on the web this image occurs, and I'm using Chrome. Chrome makes this very easy because it's Google's browser. I can right click and move down to search Google for image. And my search results will be either similar images or identical images. So here I can see that same image. Now I have the authentic version. Here's the Orange County Register. I see a link from Snopes that has that same image. So it has moved through, and Google reverse image search has looked for that pixel pattern published elsewhere online, and it gets me very quickly to authoritative, credible sources on this particular image. So again, this Snopes entry will tell me why it's a doctored image and link to the original. And the original image is in this gallery on the Orange County Register website. So it's actually taken by an Orange County Register photojournalist. And here it is on that site. So now we have more information in the caption there, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So other ways you can do a reverse image search, if you're not a Chrome user and you don't want to use it out of the right-click menu, you can go straight to images.google.com and click on the camera. And then you can either copy the image address out of the right-click menu and paste that into this field, the paste image URL, or you can actually save a copy of the image to your hard drive and upload it as a file and do a reverse image search that way. There are also reverse image search engines at tineye.com is another example, and then yandex.com is another. So sometimes it takes multiple searches across various reverse image search engines to find the source of a photo, but that's important to know about those methods. It can be a very powerful way to debunk photos out of context or photos that have been doctored. There's also a great extension called the InVid Fake Video News Debunker that gives you a range of options out of your right-click menu, so you can search these different reverse search engines with a single click on a right-click. And there are other extensions as well that you can use in your browser that do this very well. Sometimes it's necessary to do a partial screenshot of an image. So here's an example of a false meme about migrants, quote, diluting America. So you have some white supremacist, white nationalist language here. This account has since been suspended. But if I do a reverse image search of this image, I just get this same meme over and over again. So I want the photo that's in the meme. So I need to actually snip out a piece of it, save it to my hard drive, and then search that. So Windows has a native snipping tool to do a partial screenshot. You can also do one on a Mac. And then I can start to get to more authoritative sources. The Daily Mail is a British tabloid, but it does have some additional information here about this image and where it was taken that I can use as the basis for more searching. And it has a date as well. So this is telling me that these are Syrian refugees in a Greek refugee camp. Then I can take that and use the date and do some lateral searching and find the image elsewhere. I'm not familiar with Fnac.com, but I do have a photo credit now and the name of an AP photographer, and then I can use that to find the image somewhere where I'm more comfortable that, that has standards and that is captioning it the same way. So if I can find this on the AP site, then I've really gotten all the way to the source of the image. So reverse image search can be a really powerful tool, especially in combination with some of these other skills. Sunshine, do you want me to pause for more questions here throughout, or just save them for the end here?
Let's save them for the end at this point.
Okay. So geolocation is the last skill. And again, I'm going to just show you what First Draft offers here in the way of resources. It's basically a tutorial of how to use Google Street View. Many of you have probably used Google Street View, that if you zoom up on a Google map, you can actually drop into the map and navigate around. This particular challenge just asks you to find the last word in this mural, which is a relatively straightforward thing to do, and then it gets harder from there. But again, even though this was created for journalists, it's a great tool to use with students. You can also look at previous captures. So if we wanted to see, for example, when this mural was painted, I can drop that menu down out of the top left and see that the mural appears for a period of time and then was painted over by November 2018. So you can get rough date ranges that help you match details in backgrounds of images if you're trying to figure out when a given photo was taken, which can be very helpful. So I can show you what a reverse image search of this, we already looked at what a reverse image search of this image, this photo looks like. And we got to the Orange County Register by doing a little bit of lateral reading. So now let's use geolocation and say, I just want to make sure that this is in fact at the corner of Main Street and Walnut Avenue in Huntington Beach, as the Orange County Register says. I can actually check that. So I go to Google Maps and zoom right down on that intersection, and I can grab this little orange figurine here in the bottom. And when I do that, all the streets that have been captured by Google Street View light up in blue. And I can actually look at this intersection and make sure that it is in fact where this protest happened, where that woman was standing with the sign. And it matches here. You can see all the indicators that we are at the right intersection. So there's no question that that photo was taken at that intersection in Huntington Beach. And so you can layer geolocation on top of a reverse image search, lateral searching, and move to geolocation to prove things beyond a doubt. So to the person who asked the question, what do I do with someone who doubts Snopes? You can engage some of these skills and show them beyond a doubt when and where something came from. This same example of the Boise, of the image, sorry about the audio, of this Bernie Sanders rally in Boise. If I really want to prove that this was Boise, I don't have to trust the person who posted this to YouTube. We can actually do a reverse image search of a video still and get to some other instances of that. And that will take me to some other videos. This is actually the same video. Later in the video, she talks to a Bernie staffer or campaign supporter. And in the background, you can see, if you engage a little bit of critical observation, again, combining these skills, you see some pretty distinctive buildings there. So that's one visual clue. And if we do some lateral reading, we can find out that that Bernie rally or that Bernie march ended at Ann Morrison Park. So we know that the video was taken in a park, and Ann Morrison Park is in Boise. So now if we can find those buildings in and around Ann Morrison Park in Boise, we've definitively proved that that video was not Lansing, Michigan. If anyone still believed it was, and they don't want to believe the fact checkers. And if we just kind of look at the perimeter of Ann Morrison Park, we can look for a point where there might be some apartments. So Morrison Park apartments look like a likely subject to me. And sometimes this takes some doing. But again, this can be a fun, really engaging challenge if you're working with students. It can be a fun, engaging challenge among friends and family too. Can you geolocate this? Can you see where this was? And if you zoom up, you can see here that we found the buildings in the background. So that rally or that march ended in this park, right about in that location in the park. And so there are ways to do this. And once you begin, applying these skills, you can see the possibilities. The same goes for this. There's a business name. If we do a little bit of lateral reading, first of all, if we read the comments, somebody has commented where this is located, and to Google that, and you'll see where this is. But we can also do a quick lateral search for the name of this bakery in Seliang Baru, and then use Street View to prove beyond a doubt that that's where that was shot. So this is not London, because I can show you the storefront in Malaysia, in this town, right here on that intersection. And again, sometimes it takes a little looking around, but you can get definitively to the location and absolutely prove that this was not London. So again, for people who are reluctant to believe fact checkers, you can employ these skills and say, look, it's right here. There's the bakery. This happened in Malaysia. It's not in London. Nobody's locking down for 5G in London, and disprove that. So again, I think there's a really big case to be made for these skills, in the hands of ordinary folks online to help fact checkers do their jobs. We all have a role to play here in cleaning up the information environment. When you get the slides, you'll see some other sources of folks who use this kind of thing. This verification handbook was just published at datajournalism.com. That's a great guide to some of the skills and more that I mentioned. And again, I have some slides about resources from the News Literacy Project that you can check out when you get the deck. But I want to go ahead and wrap up so I can get to your questions. We do have a virtual classroom with e-learning assets there, including a Check Center that has some missions for students. So if you're looking to engage students around these, definitely check out Checkology and the Check Center. We can make sure to get you those as well. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. That was so comprehensive for such a short period of time. Okay, so we don't have much time left, so I'm going to ask you some kind of broader questions that came up. One is, in your experience, what do you see as most challenging for students when learning about effective fact-checking skills?
Sorry, what do I see as a challenge for students?
As the most challenging aspects of this for students when teaching or learning about fact-checking skills.
I think just taking the time. You know, one advantage I think that this has with students is that it's super engaging. So it's kind of like solving a mystery. It might very well be hard to get students interested in talking about a lockdown in Malaysia as a current event. But if you start with a video that says it's in London and then you get them hooked on trying to solve that mystery, then naturally they might want to know, okay, well, why is there razor wire in this town in Malaysia? And then you're really engaging the event itself. So I think that's a way to overcome that hesitancy, is to pose it like a challenge, pose it like a contest, and then challenge them to get better and better at it.
And now let's take a step back and think about this a little more broadly. How can we approach apathy toward committing to this news literacy process more generally? Someone writes, they have found some of their students and adult friends who lack the care to participate in this disciplined process.
Yeah, I think that's the danger, right? Is that people don't know what to believe, so they choose to believe nothing. I think we have to, especially as educators, we have to push back against cynical notions that, you know, that nothing is credible, that credible information doesn't exist, that the truth is unknowable, that facts are impossible to determine for sure. The notion that everybody has some kind of agenda, some sort of ulterior motive with what they publish and create. This is just not true, and it's actually really disempowering for students as individuals, and it's completely, you know, toxic to democracy. So if we don't have a basis for a common set of facts, we don't have a basis for public policy and for a national conversation. And so helping students understand the stakes of that cynicism and to work away from it toward a very savvy, nuanced, healthy skepticism that's empowered by these skills, I think is vital.
Great. And then one last question, which was posted early on in the conversation today. What role do you see for academic librarians in this fight? We have been in the trenches as fact checkers for decades. And I wonder if the News Literacy Project works with librarians in any capacity, that would be helpful to share, or if you have broader thoughts, that would also be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our trainings are generally pretty popular with librarians, both school-based librarians and public librarians. I think they have a tremendous role to play right now as the information landscape evolves and explodes. To help sort of guide people back. You know, I think public librarians can host events and have trainings and try to help their patrons understand, you know, how not to fall for misinformation, and help people understand that misinformation is actually designed to exploit them. It's designed to exploit their deepest values. It's designed to exploit their religious faith, their patriotism, whatever it might be, and nobody wants to be exploited. And I think for school-based librarians, it's the same thing. I mean, you know, really helping people understand why it's important not to fall for misinformation, how it can impact them personally, their families, their communities, and the country and the world around them. And you're right. I mean, I think librarians also have a unique role to play with faculty who may need some of these skills as well, and some training. I think, you know, middle school and high school librarians, the same, to train some of their colleagues and talk to them about these skills and resources.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Peter Adams from the News Literacy Project. We really appreciate your time today and your expertise. Thanks to all of you for joining us today, and we hope that you will join us for the final webinar in this series next Tuesday, May 5th, also at 1 p.m., where we will talk about combating misinformation through a deeper discussion of scientific uncertainty, which is a major challenge, especially at this moment. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.